Good evening and welcome. It's been a busy and historic day here at the White House. Earlier today, President Biden hosted the first White House Black Excellence brunch, inviting leaders from the Black communities, members of Congress, entertainers to the White House. Over 1,000 attendees participated in the historic event that took place on the South Lawn of the White House. So the president, in his remarks, touted the achievement of his administration, noting that it has the most diverse administration in American history, and touted the talent in American history that tap into the full talent of our nation. I made a commitment my administration will look like America, and it does. He also commented, the president in his remark also commented on former President Donald Trump's remarks during the remarks that the former president made during the presidential election this week regarding Asian immigrants in Springfield, Ohio. The president noted in his remark that there is no place, it's simply wrong, and there is no place in America for comments like that. What he's doing, he has to stop. The president, again in his remark, touts the progress that his administration has the most diverse administration in American history, and the progress that tapping into the talents of members of his administration to push progress, as well as investment. We've reported about these investments in clean energy, investments in HBCU, historical black colleges across the country, and improving the quality of life for members of the black community, especially on the marginalized community. And the president, in his remarks, again touted the historic investments in black community across the nation, the historic nomination and the appointment of the first black justice, Justice Ketanji Brown, to the Supreme Court, having the first black press secretary, as well as the first director of budget of Office of Management and Budget, Shalanda Young, just to name a few. Again, the first black deputy Treasury Secretary, Wale Adeyemo, who is also Nigerian American. Again, just to name a few of members of his cabinet that are from the black community, that the president has tapped into that talent for a diverse cabinet that is representative of America. The president is also the first that implemented that makes Juneteenth a federal holiday, and last year he hosted, as well as this year he hosted the first. Last year he hosted the first Juneteenth and events at the White House, and this year the same thing. The event was hosted this year as well. And the president, in his remarks, in a reference to comment that President Biden, in response to a comment that the former President Donald Trump also made regarding black jobs, the president said, "With your help, in just 3.5 years, we have created over 2 million new black jobs for Blacks America. And by the way, the next to be filled is President of the United States." And of course, as anyone could expect, there was a lot of applause to that. And in that, the president was referencing the vice president, who also is the historic nomination seat that she holds in American history. And if she's elected in November, she will be the first black female, black Asian president of the female and black Asian president of the United States. Moving to another story that we are covering here. As I said, today is a busy day at the White House. The president hosts the Prime Minister of UK, Prime Minister Keir Starmer, at the White House too. This was their first bilateral meeting at the White House. The first one was held earlier this summer on the sideline of the NATO summit. And today the two allies, the UK has been an ally of the US for decades, as far back as American history goes. So today the two leaders met in the Oval Office along with their delegation, with the Secretary of State Anthony Blinken and National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan were some of the delegation on the US side, and the Foreign Minister of UK, as well as other members, accompanied the Prime Minister to the White House today and were part of that meeting. In their meeting, the two leaders talk about Ukraine, continued support for Ukraine, as well as the situation in the Middle East, the ongoing effort to secure a ceasefire and releases of hostages. So the Prime Minister briefly came out and spoke with the press, and it was asked whether this bilateral meeting, the invitation extended by President Biden, was because of concern regarding if the former president returned to the White House, and the Prime Minister responded that no, they were here to talk about mutual global issues. Our audience, we know that UK is very, as much as an ally of the US, also a member of the G7 alliance, is also very involved across the African continent, working with African leaders. Of course, a lot of African nations are part of the Commonwealth, of the United Kingdom Commonwealth. And last week, President Bola Tinubu of Nigeria met with the King Charles in England last week after he completed his trip to China. And the Foreign Minister of Nigeria as well have had several meetings, as well as the South African President Kagame, just to name a few, the president of Zambia, the president of Kenya, just to name a few of the leaders that the UK government are working along with to secure regarding partnership, trade and investment partnership between the UK and the African nation. So this meeting, as much as there might not be a discussion surrounding Africa, we know that ahead of the UN General Assembly, the countdown to the UN General Assembly in the next 2 weeks, Africa will be part of that conversation. So that regarding, and we mentioned earlier this week that First Lady Dr. Jill Biden, today she traveled to Montgomery, Alabama, regarding the pre-K program, the initiative that has been implemented under the Joint Forces Initiative that she's spearheaded. And during that event, she used the opportunity to thank the Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin for 4 decade plus of service to the nation and its leadership in the past 3.5 years under the Biden-Harris administration. So, moving to other story that we are focusing on. Yesterday, the IMF World Bank meeting, the International Monetary Fund held a press conference that we participated in, and we asked the spokesperson, the IMF spokesperson, questions regarding Kenya, regarding I'm sorry, gotta look at my notes. We asked a question regarding Kenya, Nigeria, and today regarding Senegal. Speaking of Senegal, the Senegalese new president yesterday announced that he was dissolving this dissolution of his current parliament, citing several roadblock opposition from the opposition-led parliament, and he has called for an election for November. So the IMF, in response, in remarks today in a statement, told us that though they do not comment on, the IMF do not comment on political situation, but they do say that they are closely watching the unfolding situation in Senegal, and they have a team, an IMF staff on the ground that are for fact serving. Actually, that was for Kenya, so I apology about that. That they are closely watching the situation in Senegal, and we continue to pay close attention to the unfolding situation. For Kenya, the IMF, the Kenya government, as we've reported, the Kenya government asked the public for input regarding its new economic agenda. As we've reported also that earlier this summer, the President Ruto also dissolved fired a lot of his cabinet members and appointed new cabinets. So regarding the economic agenda that the public, especially the youth, protested about, so the new cabinet, the Treasury Ministry is asking, and the government is asking members of the public for input on the new economic agenda. And the IMF said that it is important that the new policies go through a process of broad consultation so that they can gain the necessary public support, and the IMF also is working with authority to ensure that the objective of the program can be met. And they currently have IMF staff visiting Kenya right now for fact-finding information, on a fact-finding mission, and as part of continuous dialogue between the IMF and the Kenya government. We reported on this that the U.S. Nigeria this week held several dialogues. In Washington D.C. there was the the inaugural U.S. Nigerian Strategic Energy Dialogue event, a 2-day event that was held. There was over $85 million that were announced for investment through Power Africa and through other initiative, U.S. initiative, for technical assistance to improve delivery and sustainability of electricity service across Nigeria. And through the Department of Energy, there will be a net zero watt program, $1.3 million that will be invested for clean energy program. The U.S. and the Nigerian government held an event around the artificial intelligence on how to work together on those programs to improve lives in Nigeria and also protect the Nigerian citizen. Yesterday, President Biden held an historic event at the White House, marking the 30th anniversary of the Violence Against Women Act, a legislative program that is spearheaded when he was a senator, as a senator at that period. He started working on it in 1990 and ensure that, through public hearing, to bring about destigmatizing one of the most important issues that affects women and girls across the US as well as across the world: domestic violence and violence against women. And through this legislative law that is known as VAWA, that was signed into law in 1994, there's been a decrease of at least 70% in reports of domestic violence, but there have also been a lot of investments in various programs that protect women as well as provide support through various programs, through shelter, through and also increase the, as I said, provide a lot of support for women that are experiencing violence against them as well as the children. So through this program, the new announcement was made that $700 million new investments will be put across several allies, several programs to improve lives and to improve services delivery to women that are experiencing domestic violence, that need support in housing, in broadband internet, in mental health as well. So this yesterday was a celebration where at the White House, advocates, allies, survivors gathered, and we have some of the survivors that told their story again and thank the president for putting in place that law that it has significantly helped a lot of women. And the president, in remark yesterday, as we reported, said it is the most proudest legislative in his whole entire career. So that's, now we move going back to Africa. As I said, we already reported on the IMF comment on Kenya, the IMF on Nigeria. There is this flood in Nigeria, as we reported. The IMF said that the ongoing flood, that it is important for the government to continue to roll out the cash transfer system. This is really important to provide relief to those affected households, and given the nature of the crisis, it will require broadening the cash transfer system to cover people in rural areas as well. And we asked how the IMF is working with the Nigerian government. The US government is involved, partnering to assist Nigeria, as well as private sector in Nigeria. The Aliko Dangote announced financial resources assistance today to people in Maiduguri, as well as other private company in Nigeria have pledged their support to assist, as the IMF said, families and households that are affected, as well as businesses that are affected by the flood in Maiduguri, in Nigeria. The other story that we've been reporting on, an update on the Mpox outbreak and the global community response to that. The African CDC said it will begin a new vaccination campaign for the Mpox on October next month, October 1st, and preparation currently is underway. And they will target in DRC, they will target the 3 hotspot area in that country. Again, we will continue to bring you updates on that. As we reported, the delivery of the US vaccine have arrived in DRC this week. The 50,000 Mpox vaccine doses that the US government pledged last month arrived in DRC this week. And the World Health Organization also announced that the vaccine doses that the European Union pledged have also arrived. So preparation, as I mentioned in this, preparation is underway regarding a campaign to bring more awareness so people can receive vaccine against the Mpox outbreak, and also receive treatments, those that have been affected, for them to receive treatment. It's part of the global effort to halt the outbreak of the Mpox vaccine. And the World Health Organization also said this week that it has what it was reviewing, the vaccines that it was reviewing, and it approved those vaccines as well. So this wrap up our today's update, as well as news of today for September 13, 2024. And I will see you next week. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a good evening and a good weekend. I'm Kemi Oshukoya. See you on Monday. Thank you.